Hail Minnesota Skinnies, this is Conman 101. Today's video is going to be predicting the Vikings schedule for the 2017 to 2018 season. Now, the next video after this that I'll be making, that I should get out in a few days, is I went to the Twins game against the Diamondbacks. It was the one that we won 5-0. We swept the whole series, which was awesome, but we won that one 5-0. And Brios did an amazing job, and I got a really good seats, like really close-up seats. So I'll be talking about that game and showing you the bobblehead, the Michael Kadire bobblehead that I got at that game as well. I'll be doing a video about that in just a few days. But for today, I will be predicting this schedule. So I have this magnet schedule from Fleet Farm that I picked up. Props to Fleet Farm. They called me up and asked me if I wanted to do a brand deal, so I figured I might as well just throw them a bone. So I got a couple mil out of it too, so that's pretty cool. But all jokes aside, I did get this really cool schedule, and I'm going to take a look at it and predict what's going to happen in the 2017 to 2018 Minnesota Vikings season. Really excited for the season, by the way. And the very first game is Monday night that first week against the New Orleans Saints, and yes, that is the team that Adrian Peterson ended up going to after leaving the Vikings organization. That's probably specifically why they made the game a Monday night game. So that's going to be a really emotional, high-stakes game for the Vikings, and it's going to be a really emotional comeback for Adrian Peterson, because it's going to be here in Minnesota. The New Orleans Saints defense just isn't there yet, and their offense is incredible, and with the addition of Adrian Peterson, it's going to make things even better. It's really going to revamp their offense. Michael Thomas and Willie Snead should definitely get the job done, and Drew Brees is still just unbelievable. In this game, I feel like the Vikings should be able to, their defense should be able to shut down the Saints offense enough to win this game, because the Saints defense just isn't doing it for them. If the Saints defense was better, the Saints would easily win a Super Bowl in my opinion, but their defense is one of the worst in the league. So that for that reason, I feel like the Vikings should be able to take care of the New Orleans Saints on that first Monday night game. But the next game at Pittsburgh, now this team is a team I really feel like has a shot at beating the Patriots and going to the Super Bowl this year. It's still a wonder to me that they haven't made the Super Bowl in recent years, because they're just so good. They have Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell on the same team. You got, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the league, and in my opinion, the second best running back in the league, right behind David Johnson, and it's really close between those two as well. So they have amazing offense, both in the passing game and in the running game. And even though their defense isn't the best, it still is a good enough defense that should get the job done. So they're an amazing team, and yet they still haven't made it to the Super Bowl in recent years, and that just astounds me. But this year I do feel like they'll be a big Super Bowl contender, and for that reason, especially at Pittsburgh, I don't think the Vikings are going to be able to win that game. And that puts the Vikings at 1-1, by the way. The next game is at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like this is going to be a really tough, hard-fought game. Jameis Winston is really emerging, and I feel like the Buccaneers are a real wild card competitor. I'm not saying like in the wild card playoffs, but they're a real like wild card to make it past the playoffs. I feel like they're a real sleeper pick if you're picking one team that you think could possibly make it that didn't make it last year. So they are going to be a very good team this year. I feel like they're going to match the Vikings really well. But just because it's here at US Bank Stadium, the momentum will be on our side because it's a home game. Just that alone will swing it to our side. So I feel like we will beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit. I feel like Detroit is also going to be a contender this year. They lost against the Seahawks in the wild card game last year, and I feel like they'll have that same effect. I feel like they won't make it to a divisional. I mean, they're definitely not going to beat out the Packers or the Vikings for the divisional spot, but I do feel like they are a good competitor for the wild card race. Again, I feel like the Vikings should be able to take care of them in a home game, just because, you know, Matthew Stafford has a couple targets, but as soon as he lost Megatron, he did kind of take a dip in efficiency, and their defense is good. I'd say they're the most averaged out team in the NFL as far as offense and defense. So our overpowering defense should be able to take care of their offense, and we should win that game. And I am taking way too much time on some of these. At Chicago, win. I'm not even going to explain that very much. The Chicago Bears are going to be one of the worst teams in the whole league this year. They lost their only prevalent player, their two only prevalent players last year, Jay Cutler and Alshon Jeffrey. I honestly couldn't tell you one, besides Jordan Howard, I couldn't tell you one player that I even know on the Bears roster this year. So that shouldn't even be close. At home against Green Bay, again, I feel like we should be able to take care of this game, because last year we had such a good game against the Packers. There was just a couple turnovers that made it close, and then we had that huge interception at the end of the game. I feel like momentum will be on our side going into this game, especially since we're not playing at Green Bay first. Whenever we play at Green Bay first, they always have momentum going here, and then they end up winning that one too. But I feel like we should be able to win against Green Bay. So that puts us at 4-1. So at home against Baltimore, again, you guys are going to say that I'm being really biased here, but these really are my opinions. At home against Baltimore, Baltimore will be better than they were last year. That's my opinion. I really do think that. You know, Joe Flacco, should he come back from his injury by week 1, it looks like he will. Joe Flacco is kind of slowing down, but they seem like a team that can bounce back this year with a kind of revamped defense. They're a younger defense, as they always have been. And I feel like the addition of Danny Woodhead is going to kind of elevate their running and passing game, because he's a good pass catching back. But again, I feel like the Vikings defense should be able to cause a lot of turnovers in that game with Joe Flacco kind of slowing down and getting older. So I feel like they should be able to win that game. At Cleveland in London, do I even have to explain this one? That's an automatic win. So that puts us at 8-1 going into the bye. And the bye last year was what took care of us. We had the bye in, I think, week 6, and then we faced the Eagles and lost that game. It was just a downhill plummet from there. This year, I also think that we're going to lose that game after the bye, because the Redskins, I think, are a serious contender this year. I feel like Kirk Cousins is going to do a lot better even this year than he did last year. He's really growing as a quarterback. So I definitely think that's going to happen. And then we've got a lot of improvement in the running game as well. And then we've got rookies as well in the running game that might be able to take over that role. And then on the defensive side, they're definitely improving as well. So at Washington, at the Redskins, I feel like they will lose that game. So now going on to at home against Los Angeles. This is another team I feel like will have a lot more of a shot this year for sure than they did last year, with the addition of Sammy Watkins. And I feel like their quarterback will also emerge after just going into the league just last year. I feel like he's going to grow a lot just this year than from last year. So I do feel like the Rams are a contender, but I feel like the Vikings should be able to take care of their young offense and cause a lot of turnovers in that game. So that would put the Vikings at 8-2 going into a game at Detroit. And at Detroit being a young team, at their place, I feel like they might be able to win against us. So I'm going to give Detroit that game. And then at Atlanta's offense is just at a completely other level. They kind of remind me of Pittsburgh in a sense. They have the Coleman and Freeman duo in the backfield that's just absolutely lethal. And they have Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, who is coming off of a huge MVP year. So I'm going to pick Atlanta to beat the Vikings in that game, especially at Atlanta. I'm really looking forward to that game, though, just because of that really awesome new stadium that they have. So that puts us at 7-4, giving us a little bit of a losing streak near the end of the season, but I don't think that will affect us too much. So we got at Carolina. Carolina is going to be better than they were last year. Last year was a real fluke. Their defense can definitely be better than they were last year, that's for sure. And I feel like it will be improved. The loss of Norman kind of deflated that defense a little bit, but still it should improve. And Cam Newton had a rough year too, and he will bounce back from that. But I feel like that's going to be kind of a game that we can grind out and win. That's going to be a hard-fought game, a battle of the defenses, but I feel like we'll win in a low-scoring game. At home against Cincinnati, I feel like we'll also take care of that game. It's kind of the same thing as Carolina. Their defense is definitely better than they showed last year, so that will be improved. Andy Dalton is kind of one of those middle-of-the-line quarterbacks that no one really talks about, but he does definitely deserve some recognition. The Vikings should be able to take care of them in a game that I feel like will be a lot of turnovers on both sides. At Green Bay, I feel like, Green Bay is such a tough place to play, especially for the Vikings in this rivalry. So I feel like the Packers, with their high-scoring offense, should be able to beat the Vikings in that game. And then finishing off the season at home against Chicago, that won't even be close. We'll absolutely demolish them in that game on December 31st. That's pretty much it for the schedule. So that would put the Vikings at 11-5, a good candidate to make it into the wild card. I feel like the Vikings are going to make it into the wild card, and they won't overtake the Packers. If they were to win that crucial game at Green Bay, I feel like that would be the deciding game to see who takes the division over those two teams. But I do feel like Green Bay will take over that division. Their offense is insane this year. As much as I hate to say it, Green Bay might go a long way in the playoffs. I really hate to say that because I hate the Packers. That is it for the 2017-2018 Minnesota Vikings schedule. I'm so excited for the Vikings season. I have my fantasy football draft coming up with my family in less than a week, just this upcoming Sunday, so I'm really excited about that. Now, I feel like I say this every single time, but sorry again for missing an upload in over a week. I had a really busy week with my Twins game and band all throughout the week again, so I'm trying to do my best to make a bunch of videos on the days that I can make videos, so that when I can't make videos on a certain day, then I can upload those videos, those extra videos I made to make up for it. So hopefully that will happen in the future. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please follow my Instagram _conman101, as well as my fantasy football Instagram _fantasyfootballfreak. I'll put both of those names in the description for you to type in. Thank you guys again. Go Vikings, and I will see you on the flip side.